All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our time management workshop number 2. Today, Clarice and I have a lot of exciting tips and strategies and points of discussion for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we get into the new material, we're going to do a little bit of a share from homework 1. So we'll begin with that share. Then for the rest of today's presentation, we're going to work on creating a system. We'll introduce you to some tools for building your system. We'll talk about different kinds of systems first, and then we'll introduce you to the tools of the trade to give you some things just to think about to build your system and some tools to add to your toolkit. And then we'll also talk about how it will all come together. And then lastly, introduce the homework for this session, which I'm pretty sure you're going to like. Clarice is smiling because she knows you're going to like it too. Okay, does anybody have any questions from last time before we get started for today? Cool. Okay, so let's warm up a little bit. We're going to begin this morning or this evening's presentation with a little bit of a share. We're very curious to hear from you. Most of you were able to do your homework from last session. If you were not able to do your homework, that's totally okay. You have an opportunity now to share with us. But we're just sort of curious to see what you learned about yourself from last session when you did your self-assessment of your current time management practices. So we want just to give you kind of an opportunity to kind of think about some of the time management practices that you currently have, the areas where you have a lot of tasks, and to kind of think about the tools that we introduced in last class and how you could use those tools in your current time management practices. So let's take a look at this. Up top on this slide, we have some of the 6 strategies that we learned about last time. In our previous class, we introduced you to a couple of different strategies for managing tasks. So we went over task strategies like timing, the snowball method, the Pomodoro method. This was that tomato method that we talked about last time, the swallowing the frog method, social buddy system, and then finally flipping between tasks. So we have 6 strategies here. These are sort of like tools that you can use to manage the tasks that you have on your plate. I'm going to give you a couple minutes just to kind of think about one area of time management that you want to improve. And if you feel comfortable, and we really would like to hear from you, please share. You can raise your hand in Zoom and say it out loud, or you can type your answer in the chat box, and I'm going to copy and paste your answer here to this table. There are some areas where students feel this is great. I have excellent time management skills in this area. There are other areas that you might identify like, I could definitely improve in this area. So for those areas that you feel like you need to improve or your goal is to improve, which of the strategies that we introduced last time do you think you could pair with that area you're trying to improve? Which one do you like, and which one do you think would work best for your area of improvement? So when you're ready, you can raise your hand in Zoom, or you can type your answer in the chat box, and then I'll copy and paste this on the table. So give us one area that you want to improve and one strategy that you think you can use to improve this area. And you can be general here, you can be specific. We saw in the homework that some students had some general areas that they wanted to improve. Some students had some specific areas that they wanted to improve, like maybe math class is a huge pain, or you have a teacher that has really complex projects. What right now do you feel like is an area of time management that you want to try maybe one of these strategies? What is the area and what is the strategy? I'm going to call on a student to see if we can get this task started. Stephen, can you share with us, is there one area of time management that you want to improve? What strategy do you like here?
I think that sometimes I just forget that I had to do something,
Mhm.
um, and then I just end up not doing it.
I see. I see. Yeah. Is there a strategy here that you could apply for that? Or do you think that the solution for this is something else?
Um, I think that maybe just putting more things just on my calendar would be a better idea.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, so I sometimes just get lazy and I think that I will remember them, but then yeah, I just forget about them.
thank you so much for sharing that. And Stephen, that's an excellent point. So for some areas of time management, the areas that you want to improve, some of these strategies are not going to work. These strategies are good with specific tasks and specific things on your to-do list that you need to get done. But if it's something more general, like an area like, forgetting dates or forgetting, things that are coming up, which is a very common problem for students. Stephen, you are not the only one. I think Clarice and I, when we were students, we totally forgot to put things in our calendar. So that's why, time management, it's a moving target. You constantly have to adapt and check. And this is definitely a great area for improvement. And I think a lot of students are like you, that this is an area they want to improve. So area for improvement, I'm going to say uh, forgetting to put tasks on your calendar. Excellent. And I agree with you. So maybe like these strategies wouldn't be the best solution for this because these are like targeted things for tasks. So hold that thought. And we're going to talk about systems later today. And I think the system will help you. Excellent. Who else? What area of time management would you like to improve? Is it something general? Is it a specific task? Is it a specific class or assignment or activity that you want to improve? Is there a strategy that you can use to improve it? Or is it something bigger, more general? And you can put your answer in the chat box or you can say it out loud. Erin, excellent. System, okay. Excellent. Okay, so Erin's going to try the Pomodoro method. Very cool. So area for improvement, procrastination, which We all have had some um, experience with procrastination. This is also a very, very common area. This is an area for learning, for development. This is, it's very easy to procrastinate. Everyone has had experience with this. And this is the time in your career as a student that you want to try to figure out, okay, like, how do I motivate myself? How do I reduce my procrastination? Can I apply some of these strategies for success, for reducing my procrastination? You can think of these strategies like tools. So if you get stuck and you just feel like overwhelmed and the procrastination cycle gets larger and larger, try one of these strategies and see if it works. So Erin is going to try the Pomodoro method. That's excellent. And Erin, can you tell us, can you describe to us, remind us what the Pomodoro method is? How would you describe it in your own words?
I guess from what I've seen on the slide, it's like you uh, you just sorry, I'm trying to think of the right word. Um, I guess you give yourself time to rest. So while you're working, you're not very tempted to go on your phone for something random.
Yeah, yeah. I like how you describe that, right? So the key there is that rest time. This method prioritizes that rest time, that break time, so that you still, get your you can take a little distraction break and then get back to business. Excellent. Any other students? Any other areas that you would like to improve? Are there any other strategies that you're going to try? Erin sampling the Pomodoro method. Is there anyone else who is planning on trying some of these other strategies? Okay, awesome. So if you are interested in trying one of these other strategies and you would like to report back to us, we're very curious to see how these strategies work in your own schedules, in your own lives. So if you would like to reflect on it and write us a quick note, you can email Clarice and I. We're very curious to see, uh, how these strategies help you with the areas that you've identified for areas for improvement. So you can always send us an email after this class and say, hey, I tried the swallowing the frog method and here's how it went, or I tried the timing method and here's how it went. Great. All right, so let's get back here. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. Thank you, Steve and Erin, for sharing. And we're curious to see how these strategies go. These strategies that we talked about last time, they're like tools. So these work on specific tasks, on specific things that you are trying to get done. So Stephen brought up a really good point with his area for improvement. So his area for improvement is more general. If you struggle with kind of improving like the general nature of your system, stay tuned today. We're going to focus on bigger areas of time management, those systems, and Clarice has a lot of great information for that. Okay. In that self-assessment that you did for homework from last time, we asked you maybe some interesting questions about learning style. I hope everyone enjoyed taking that quiz. I feel like in schools and in American schools and international schools, especially, like You probably have taken a learning style quiz at some point. Probably everyone sort of knows what their learning style is. This is sort of a popular thing that teachers explore and you've probably been exposed to in a classroom. If you have not and you took that quiz, I hope that you found it enlightening. We have some examples of learning styles here. For your system to work and for the tools to work, it really needs to work with you. So in our last session, Clarice explained that time management, it's a moving target. That's sort of the first main point. You constantly have to adapt yourself, adapt your systems, check your systems, connect to your system. So it's, time management takes a lot of work. You have to constantly be checking your system and updating your system every day. The other point about time management is that it's personal. So my system might not work for you. Clarice's system might not work for you. Your system might not work for us. So it's very, very personal. So being able to identify what your learning style is and connect to your learning style and infuse it in your system could be something that helps you maybe. We have some examples of ways that you can employ your learning style in your system. So for example, if you're a visual learner, you might consider using sticky notes, color coding in your system. Auditory learner, you could use alarms. Reading and writing learning style. This was included in that quiz that we sent you. The bullet journal approach, and we'll talk more about that later. A physical planner, so you're physically writing. Also sticky notes. And then finally, tactile learners. You might enjoy like a push pin board or a dry erase calendar or something like that. From this list, from these 4 learning styles here, visual learner, auditory learner, reading and writing, and tactile, would you add any other suggestions? We have just some examples here: sticky notes, color coding, alarms, bullet journal, physical planner, sticky notes, push pin board, dry erase calendar. Are there any other maybe ways that you can, examples for each of these learning styles, examples of how you can incorporate this into your own systems? Can you think of any additional examples to put in this box here for each of the learning styles? We just have one example for auditory learner. Can you think of maybe another way, if you're an auditory learner, to use this to your advantage? We have alarms here. Can you think of any others? Does anybody currently connect to their learning style? Is there um, any other system or kind of way that you use your learning style that works for you? I'm kind of curious in this group. Raise your hand in Zoom if you are a visual learner. Clarice is going to raise her hand too, because she and I are both visual learners. Okay, we got Selena. Selena's in the visual learner group. Excellent. Welcome to our group, Selena. You mean Clarice. Evan is in the group too. Okay, so Evan is a visual learner too. Fantastic. Anyone else? Ooh, anyone else visual learners? That's so amazing that you know that. That's very powerful. Awesome. Can you lower your hand now? Excellent. Auditory learners. Who is an auditory learner in this group? Raise your hand on Zoom if you are an auditory learner. Do we have any of those in this group? I feel like I've met some auditory learners, but I don't think they're as frequent maybe as visual learners. I feel like I meet way more visual learners. Good. What about someone who their strengths are reading and writing, like reading and writing style learner? This is like if you learn best by like seeing it on a paper and like writing it down. Emily Fang, yes. I think I'm a little bit of this too. I think I'm a visual learner and a little bit of reading and writing. Adalia, excellent. Good. All right, lower your hands and we'll do the last one. This one's an interesting one too, tactile. Do we have any tactile learners here? This is a learner who learns best by like physical touch, moving push pins, erasing and rewriting dry erase calendars. Does anyone learn best by, oh, Nicole. Nicole is a tactile learner, fantastic. Any other tactile learners? Nicole, I also love that you know that. That's super cool. Wonderful. All right, so you can lower your hand. So that was, I really like doing that activity with you. We've all learned a little bit about each other. We know who are the visual learners, the auditory learners, reading and writing method learners, tactile learners. That's really great. Awesome. Okay, so that's something to think about. When you're developing your time management system, if you feel like you're getting stuck, if you feel like you just need to kind of interject something in your system to make your work more efficient or make your work more enjoyable, you might think about your learning style and then seeing if there's a way that you can motivate yourself or just get work done in a different way according to your learning style. So this is just another tool that we're offering you, just something to think about so that you can build your own personalized system that works for you. Okay. We also want to hear from you a little bit about your reward in that time management assessment worksheet that you did. We had a section that asks, what are your rewards? And it was sort of interesting because we saw that for the homework, there were some students who had rewards in their system, and there were students that said, I didn't even think about this. I don't have any rewards in my system. I guess it's this. So does anybody have a reward that they would like to share? What is your reward when you finish work? How do you kind of treat yourself after you accomplish a task, especially a hard task? You can share by raising your hand, or you can share in the chat box. What is your reward? These can be small rewards. These can be um, general rewards. How do you sort of acknowledge yourself, treat yourself after you accomplish a big task, a difficult task, a stressful task? You might want to think about the things that you enjoy. We're also sort of curious to see like your rewards. Like, are they, rewards related to technology? Are they social rewards? Are they, physical, like going outside? What are your rewards? Yeah. Selena, can you share with us maybe one of your rewards?
Feel like I kind of like reward myself before doing my stuff. Like I spend all my time like watching entertainment and then I kind of have like I have to finish my work at that point. So I guess like I just go to sleep.
Ah, do you feel like that works for you, the timing of your reward?
I don't think it's like a good method. I feel like I need to like start doing work before I like, you know, do my social media stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's a good reflection. And it's so easy on social media and just with technology in general that you get led down like a black hole, a rabbit hole, and then you look up and then it's like, oh wow, like thirty minutes has gone by for sure. Okay. Anyone else? What is your reward? Grace, can you share your reward with us?
For me, it's just a bite of chocolate.
Wow, I love that. What kind of chocolate do you like?
um, any chocolate, dark chocolate preferably, because it's not as sweet and it has less calories than regular chocolate.
I'm with you. Dark chocolate all the way. That's awesome. Anyone else? Ernie, what is your reward?
I don't have one.
And that's okay. Maybe this is the session that you develop a reward. I'm going to put TBD, to be decided. That's great. That's great. All right. So reward system. I have a friend whose reward system is her cat. She has like she kind of uses the Pomodoro method, and then her break is like it's like a cuddle break with her cat. That is her motivation. I'm like, I totally get that. Okay, let's continue a little bit. You guys are doing a really nice job here. I love the reflection so far. We have sort of an interesting case study here. We had a question in that reflection that we gave you from last time, asking you to list the locations where you spend most of your time. And the reason for this is the location of your tasks is going to dictate to some degree the system that you develop for yourself. So if you spend a lot of time kind of switching between locations, or if you have the opposite scenario where you spend most of your time like in one specific location doing tasks, one system might work better than another. So I have an example here, or we have an example here of a student. This is from last class's homework. If you are this student, You might recognize your own work. There's no name attached to this, but this is an actual student's response from the homework. Look at this student's list. The student listed the different places where they worked. So home, in class, home, at school. So thinking about this system, what would be the best system for this student? Do you think a digital calendar would be the best, a paper calendar, or a combo? What would you recommend if you were a time management coach for this student? Paper calendar, digital calendar, or combo? What are your thoughts? Let's take a vote. Raise your hand in Zoom if you feel like exclusively a paper calendar would work for this student. So paper calendar here, we have no votes. Okay, good. What about electronic calendar? Would an electronic calendar work for this student? Yeah, okay, Nicole is saying yes. Selena is saying yes. Adalia, Emily? Evan, good. All right, lower your hands. Ernie, excellent. Lower your hands, yep. And then we'll take our final vote, combo. You think a combo method would work for this student? Yeah, Aaron says combo. Yeah, we agree. We said either the digital, like a digital calendar, or a combo. Like maybe the student has like a digital calendar as their primary system, then they have a paper calendar, maybe for like the things that for the home tasks, just to kind of make it a little bit easier. But we agree, we think that the digital calendar is probably best here, just because there's multiple locations where the student does their work. So this is something also to think about, you know, if your system is, you're kind of feeling stuck and frustrated, and like your system is not great and it's not really working well for you, kind of think about, okay, where do you spend most of your time? Like, is your system the right match for the locations where you do your work? Yeah, just another thing to think about as you develop your toolkit. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about systems, and we did some excellent reflection. Now we're going to go into sort of the instructional part of today's workshop, and we're going to talk about systems. Last class we looked at strategies, so these are like the tools in your system, but today we're going to focus on kind of the bigger systems that are going to guide your work. So the biggest system, the number one thing that Clarice and I would recommend to you is your calendar. So your calendar is your primary system. And from your calendar, you can adopt other systems, like subsystems, into your calendar, but your primary one is going to be your calendar. And then you're going to have, you know, deadlines, and you're going to build tasks around what you have on your calendar. You can use those strategies like Pomodoro method, swallowing the frog, to tackle the tasks on your calendar. So your calendar is your most important tool. It is very, very important for you. You were going to use your calendar as a high school student and beyond. So use this time to become a master of your calendar. When you create your calendar, you are going to use it to notate time and deadline based tasks. So you can spend time in your classes. I always remember, and Clarice and I talked about this when we were developing the workshop, I always remember as a student in both high school and college and graduate school, that first week of classes, I would spend hours putting all of the dates in my calendar, from, copying those dates from the syllabus and making sure that I had all of the deadlines notated on my calendar so that I could plan backwards from those dates. So you want to make sure that all of those deadlines are on your calendar. You can include deadlines from the syllabi in your classes. You can include deadlines for competitions. Your counselors are constantly, talking to you about competitions. Betty has instructed you to, do this competition, this competition, and your counselor has two on your college plan. So you have those dates, and you can create deadlines that are given to you. Those are kind of the easy ones to add to your calendar, but you should also set internal deadlines for yourself. So if you have, John Locke essay competition due on June 30th, right? End of June is that competition. You want to make sure that you have sort of some internal deadlines for yourself. So maybe you begin researching on, March 20th, right? We have our John Locke essay training on March 18th, and then maybe you attend the training, and then you start drafting and start doing research, and then maybe you begin research on the 20th or something. Okay, you do research on the 20th, March 20th, and then maybe in April you set another deadline. Okay, I'm going to have like an outline done by April 5th, and then from there, okay, I'm going to have my first draft done by April 15th, and then you can kind of work on those internal deadlines too. So on your calendar, you're going to have a mix of mandated deadlines that are given to you, and then also the deadlines you create for yourself to accomplish those tasks. So put the easy ones in first, put the ones that are given to you, and then you can put your own internal deadlines. My suggestion would be to give yourself room for error. So when you create those internal deadlines, give yourself an extra day, or some extra cushion time just in case something happens, like if you get sick, or if you're feeling like less motivated, or if you have some activities or you're traveling around that time, just to kind of give yourself a little bit of a buffer so that you can plan appropriately and you have time if you need to adapt or pivot to meet your goals. Other things that might be helpful for your classes, you might have recurring deadlines. So, you might have like a weekly post that you have to submit every week, or you have, a weekly reflection, or like a weekly lab report or something like that. Or you might have like a task for leadership. You might be the leader of a club and you have to send out like notes every week or something like that. It's very, very helpful to set up recurring meetings, and we'll show you how to do that later on an electronic calendar. But this is also something that you should include in your calendar. You can do this, if you use digital calendar, pretty easy to do it. If you're using a paper-based calendar, this is a little bit more tedious, but you want to just make sure that you're blocking out time and adding as much as you can to your calendar, because again, your calendar is your #1 tool. When you are using your calendar, you should constantly be checking it. So checking your calendar, creating all the deadlines, external and internal for yourself is great, but it's not going to work unless you check it. So not only is it organizing your calendar, but it's checking your calendar too. So check it frequently, update it. You can add things, you can delete things, you can move things. So you just want to constantly be interacting with your calendar. That is your #1 tool, and that's going to help you the most with your classes. I'm sure Clarice would agree. I am constantly checking my calendar all the time. So this is my number one tool still. It was my number one tool as a student and as an adult too, still very, very important. Okay, so let's continue. We're going to introduce you just to a couple of other systems that you can kind of layer on top of the calendar system. So the calendar is your primary system. And on top of that calendar system, we're going to just give you kind of a menu, like things maybe that you can try on top of that calendar, just like we gave you strategies for accomplishing your tasks. We're going to give you just a couple of other strategies that you can use in combination with that calendar. So the first one is the Eisenhower matrix. This is sort of an interesting one, and this is sort of a tool that is used to prioritize tasks. So this matrix uses quadrants to determine like which tasks have the most priority. So for example, it groups tasks into the urgent category and the not urgent category. It also groups tasks according to, is it important or is it not important? So urgent and important, this quadrant needs to be done first. Then you're going to use the quadrant from there. So you're going to focus on this quadrant first. Any type of projects that have like a time sensitive deadline would be an urgent, important task, and you're going to focus here. There's also urgent and not important. This is an urgent task, so it needs to be done, but maybe it's something that you can delegate. So for example, if you're like a head of a club, maybe you can use some of your leadership skills and delegate that task to maybe one of your club members who can help you out with this. Or if you're in a group, for example, like maybe you can delegate this to one of your group members. So delegation is a really important tool, and this is a great time for you to kind of practice this, because this is a tool that will help you a lot in life. And it's good to begin gaining some experience with delegation now, and strengthening those skills, because those are really important. They can free up a lot of time if you delegate tasks. And it's kind of hard to delegate tasks. It's a communication skill. You have to kind of explain to others how to do a task, and you might have certain expectations for how that task needs to be done. So it's also sort of interesting and challenging to learn how to communicate, what needs to be done, but then also communicate like your expectations for it too, so that whatever you get, the product of that delegation, whoever's doing that task, does it in the way that you like and is kind of like up to your standards. Yeah. And then in the not urgent category, these, you could have urgent, you could have not urgent and important tasks. So maybe these are important tasks, but they're not, immediate tasks. These are down the road. These are ones that you can schedule later on your Google Calendar. And then this quadrant is, kind of not urgent, not important. These are tasks that you can just eliminate altogether. So using the Eisenhower matrix is something that you're going to use, that you could use in combination with your schedule. If you feel like you make your schedule and then you have tasks that you're not really sure like where to begin, like what do you do first, you can use this matrix to determine that. And then that's sort of one way that you can kind of come into your system from a different perspective and maximize your efficiency. Any questions about the Eisenhower matrix? I think if you think of the structure, like you could write this down to help you decide, but it's also sort of like a mental structure that you can use too. You know, like if you aren't really sure where to begin, you can kind of like, if you're a visual thinker, especially like imagine this matrix in your mind and then kind of think about the different parts: urgent, not urgent, important, not important. And that's sort of a way of giving your mind a system to take kind of the overwhelmingness of all of the tasks that you have to do and say, okay, I have so many tasks. I'm really stressed out about this. How can I take these tasks and just organize them in a way that I can like see, you know, like what's the most urgent, and then begin with that and start tackling. So another tool that you can definitely use just to manage your workflow. Other systems, so calendar is primary. Other systems that you can use on top of your calendar just to sort of manage your workflow and perfect your system. Here is another option. We're giving you a menu of systems to choose from. The autofocus method. So this method uses your own motivation to tackle tasks. And we have a strategy here with 4 parts. Can I get a volunteer to read the strategy, step 1, 2, 3, and 4? Who would like to read? Raise your hand. Who's a good reader? Any volunteers? You can raise your hand in Zoom. I'm looking for a volunteer to help me read. Evan, I know you're a good reader. Can you read step 1, 2, 3, 4?
All right, notate all of your tasks. Select the tasks that are most exciting and enjoyable. Work on the tasks that feel most motivated to do first. Each time you finish a task, go back to step 1 and repeat until you finish your list.
Yes, excellent. And I apologize for that. There's a typo here. Work on the task that you feel most motivated to do first. Excellent. And thank you, Evan. That was beautiful reading. Okay. So that you feel most motivated to do. Fantastic. Okay, so here's another method that you can use on top of your system. You're going to notate all your tasks. That's, you know, your initial, you're going to look at your calendar, you know, see what upcoming projects, deadlines, presentations, etc., games, you know, events for your school that you have coming up. You're going to notate what you need to do in order to accomplish those tasks. And then you're going to have sort of a task list. And then from that task list, you're going to select what's the most exciting, what's the most enjoyable. You're going to start there. And then you're going to work on these tasks first. And it sort of gets you started, because sometimes with your work, like it might be so hard to start for many reasons, and starting is the hardest part. So if you can get yourself like working, like going, it's sort of like inertia. You know, if you're familiar with physics, right? You know, and an object in motion is likely to stay in motion, right? Like this is the same sort of idea with your work too. You know, like it's easy to continue your work once you've begun. Like sometimes it's hard to get from the state of not doing your work to get into your work. So if you can kind of begin with maybe a task that you feel super motivated to do or really excited about, maybe you can begin with that task, and then that gets you going. And then you can continue with some other tasks. And then that way you're sort of almost like a pool, like you're slowly getting into the water. Like if you imagine a swimming pool, like maybe you're really excited to swim, and you try to get into the water, and then it's so cold and you have to slowly get into the water and to adjust your body to getting into that pool. Same thing with your work. You know, it might be difficult to fully get into your work, so you can start with some of those small tasks that you feel motivated to do. I have a star here on step 2. This method does not work if you have time-sensitive tasks. So if you have time-sensitive tasks, for step 2, you're going to select the tasks that are most time-sensitive instead of the tasks that are most exciting and enjoyable. So, if you have urgent deadlines, attend to those urgent deadlines first, those urgent tasks first. You can use the Eisenhower matrix to determine what is urgent if you're not sure, like, what do I have urgently to do? But this is, another way just to kind of get yourself moving into your work. Begin with the ones that you feel most motivated to do or most excited about, or something that you just feel like you could do and feel excited, or something that's going to help you ease into the workflow. Any questions about autofocus method? Other systems, another one that we could introduce to you is the agile results. This one is sort of interesting too. This has a lot of reflective components on it. If you feel like you are a student who is sort of a deep thinker, or someone who reflects a lot and who's really interested in like just making your systems more efficient, you can employ this method, the agile results method. This is actually a new system for me, and I think I'm sort of curious about employing this in my own workflow. I think we sort of all do this naturally with our work, doing kind of a reflection at the beginning of the week, or a goal setting at the beginning of the week and a reflection at the end of the week. We do it on sort of a subconscious level in a way, just because the nature of our schedules, weekdays and weekends. But this agile results method, on Mondays, you're going to set a vision. So you're going to look at your calendar, look at your upcoming tasks, and then set goals. So based on what you have coming up, you're going to set your goals for the week. And then each of the days that you work, you're going to notate your daily wins. So identify each day, look at your calendar, look at your Monday vision, like what are your overall goals for the week, and then look at that specific day. And then you're going to identify the most important, sorry about that, guys. This is going to be tasks, the most important tasks you would like to complete before that day ends. So you're going to notate, what tasks you have for that day. And then the ones that you're able to accomplish are going to count as your daily win, and you're going to try to get as many daily wins as possible. On Fridays, you're going to reflect. What did you do well? What are the areas for improvement? What are some remaining tasks that you didn't get done? You can include these in your Monday vision for the next week. And then also think about, hotspots. What are your pain points? What are the things that you just feel like so unmotivated to do, or so overwhelmed or stressed out by, like really kind of think about those and explore, why is this painful? Why is this stressful? Like, what can I do to make this better? If you're stuck, like how, why am I stuck? Like, how can I get myself unstuck? Am I feeling like I don't have a lot of motivation? How can I replenish my motivation? So just kind of identifying and doing this reflection on Fridays, especially like identifying the hotspots, can really kind of clear blocks that you have with regard to your schedule, with regard to your tasks, and then also kind of your motivation too. So, just kind of reflecting, especially in this hotspot area, is something that just thinking about it, just reflecting kind of loosens that block that you have mentally. Any questions about the agile results system? This is another system you can use in combination with your calendar. Okay. Last system is the bullet journal system. This is a system that I think a lot of students are familiar with. I know that there are some students who use the bullet journal method and they like it. I am not so familiar with this. Clarice, also, we don't personally use this, but we know about this, and there are students who really like this method. I know a lot of adults who also use this bullet journal method. In college, I had friends who use bullet journals, same in grad school. So this is just something maybe that you could read about and consider try it to see, you know, if it works for you. Maybe it does. And we have some instructions included in the bullet journal here. I will let you read this to yourself. You can review this PowerPoint later to look at the specific instructions. It's very detailed, so I'm not going to read it in this workshop. I'll let you explore this later. And then if you have any questions, we can help you out with this. But this is just another system that we're offering in addition to the calendar. So you can, you know, begin with your calendar and then layer these systems on top of it. And then for your individual tasks, you can use those strategies. Okay. Other systems, we have a link here. You can visit this link later. We're just giving you a menu. So in addition to the calendar, you can, you know, employ the Eisenhower matrix to determine the priority of your tasks. You can use the autofocus method to get yourself rolling into your work. You can use agile results to set goals. Like if you're a goal-oriented student, and you benefit by making lists, agile results might be a really good place for you. Bullet journals, like if you need a really structured system, a bullet journal might work too. So these are systems you can use in combination with your calendar. And this is just ways of kind of moving through your work and just continuing to move instead of you know, getting stuck in places or you know, spending more time in certain places than others. All right, so let's continue. Customizing your system. Last sort of point about this. You can think of your system as a building block. You're going to use what you already have to build. So you're going to use your skills, use your learning styles, your habits to personalize your system. And like we mentioned, you know, the system is not going to work for everyone. Everyone has different strengths, weaknesses, needs. You're going to maximize your strengths, use your strengths to tackle your weaknesses. You know, you're going to have individual tasks and responsibilities. So you want to really adapt your system to that. And like we mentioned, that calendar is your primary system. That calendar, you should be constantly checking that calendar, updating that calendar, interacting with that calendar. You should have 2 calendar interactions at least per day. So 2 times that you look at it or interact with it in some way, that would be our recommendation. Okay, so I'm gonna continue here, and Clarice is going to discuss the tools of the trade.
Hello, everyone. So thank you, Jordan, for that amazing introduction to systems. So hopefully everyone is getting a sense of creating that menu. I really like that metaphor. I think food is really salient because, you know, we all eat food. We've all gone to a restaurant. So with these tools, you can think of it as building upon your menu. So think of it maybe like you're going to a place that allows you to like build your own pizza or build your own sandwich, and your calendar is the bread or the pizza crust, and you have those systems we talked about. You're adding on some of the meats maybe, and now you're adding some other things to the pizza or the sandwich. This kind of build your own customized system. So I'll introduce to you some tools of the trade. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but still kind of a place for you to get started. And it's also going to introduce the homework for this session, which is going to be really fun. There we go. So again, you can utilize the tools in your systems and your strategies to make time management work for you. Ultimately, your system, as we've been talking about, is not going to look like someone else's system, and that's perfectly fine because you have your own learning style. As we've talked about, people raise their hands and kind of reflected, which you still want to continually do in this process because you have your own personal needs. So you want to think about, okay, I'm someone who wants to use autofocus. What can I do to help me do that? Or I want to utilize the Pomodoro method in addition to something else. So now I'll go through some different tools that you can use to really make these systems work and actually enact them. So we gave you the systems and the strategies. Now you'll use these tools to enact them. So first are some academic tools that you can use. So creating a study guide, say you're studying for a test and you have all this material that you need to go through, you can create your own study guide that goes through all the different material that you need to study, maybe some definitions, some formulas, if it's like science or math. So really have a system that organizes, okay, this is everything that's going to be on my Unit 1 test, and go through everything. And then you can use that study guide to work through your studying. So say, okay, my test is on Friday. I make my study guide on Monday. On Tuesday, I'm going to go through section 1 of the study guide. Wednesday, I'm going to go through section 2, etc. Another method that's wonderful is outlining essays. I use this personally as well in college, and then also I'm in grad school now, so I continue to use that for big essays. So you can outline your essays, which helps break it down into small chunks. Also helps you to organize your ideas beforehand. So it's just a great tool in general, but you can use it also as a time management tool because you're chipping away at the task. So you can put even on your calendar, okay, my essay is due next Monday. The previous Monday or even 2 weeks before, depending on the length of the essay, I'm going to first outline my essay. Then next day, I'm going to work on the first section of my outline, etc. So you can break up the task by this outline, sort of like the task list you're creating to organize your calendar. Next is brainstorming. So just kind of being able to brainstorm like a project or a paper or a test, thinking about a strategy of how to approach it with the calendar method, with Pomodoro, etc. Notice how we're talking about breaking things into tasks. We're not saying, okay, do all of your project at once, because that's just not feasible. This is a way you can break it down. So this is actually what you'd be scheduling on your calendar. You'd put down brainstorming for a certain day, depending on those internal deadlines, as Jordan mentioned. And also, if you are utilizing the social buddy system, you can also schedule out time to talk with your teacher, which is something you should be doing anyway, because it's good to form relationships with teachers. And a plug for college applications, you'll eventually have to ask them for a recommendation. So you definitely want to be talking with your teacher, so you can even schedule out a meeting with them, maybe have a study session with friends, or of course you have your counselor meetings and you can talk about your academic plan and use that time to really sit down, focus, think about your strategy for the upcoming week or upcoming couple of weeks with your academics. So next is sticky notes, one of my favorite tools. I personally utilize them and I have them in different colors. So they come in many different colors and designs. And you can color code them based on content. So say you use a red or pink sticky note for reminders, green for like a general kind of note, like, oh, this is some important reference information I want to go back to, yellow for something you need to do, etc. So you can build your own system with this. The colors, we're not going to go back and check what colors you're using for your sticky notes. So you can really utilize this to the best, whatever makes sense for you, or just use your favorite color. They come in like packs of different colors as well, so you can utilize that. And they come in fun sticky note dispensers. Like I've seen cats, I've seen lots of different fun sticky note dispensers if you really want to have a lot of fun with sticky notes. But they're a great way, especially if you're a tactile learner, if you're a read and write learner, even if you're a visual learner as well, seeing that pink sticky note on your desk might be helpful. And you can use this in conjunction, of course, with your calendar. Next is a physical planner. So you can see I'm really plugging for colors. I just think having your time management system be fun will help you work through it better. So say you have a fun looking, like even, they have unicorn ones, they have ones with dogs, so many different types of planners and designs. Or if you want like a simple blue one, simple black one, that's also fine, whatever your style is. So you want to best personalize it. They also come in different sizes and different structures. So when you're going to pick out your planner, if you decide to use a physical planner, make sure to kind of flip through it and see, okay, what's the structure of this planner? Because each one is a little bit different. And you see there's the planner on the screen there, breaks it up by hour even. Some planners just give you a list of tasks for each day. Some might break it down and even to, okay, at 4 o'clock, I have my basketball practice. At 6 o'clock, I eat dinner. 7 o'clock, I'm studying for my math test. So it can be great in conjunction with your digital calendar. We are giving the plug for the digital calendar as your foundation because it gives reminders. So imagine you always have your phone on you, so it just ping you when you need to do something. But a physical planner, if you're like a tactile learner, even if you're a visual learner, can be great if you need to just write something down, have that in conjunction with your digital planner. I used to use this in high school, so I had my planner. Every class, I'd write down what the homework was at the end of class. And then when it was time for me to study in the evening, I would check off each thing that I needed to do to make sure I got everything done for a given day. So if you have a syllabus, as Jordan was saying, go in advance. So either flip through your physical planner, write down the deadlines of certain things, and then also create those internal deadlines. You can use color coding here as well. So you can buy a pack of multicolored pens. They're pretty cheap, say like Target or Walmart. And you can have, say, your test is one color, your homework is another color, your club is another color. So you can make it really work for you. Next is digital planner. So this is different than a calendar. So calendar is like a list of events. Digital planners have the added benefit of reminders. You do need to set them. So you need to make sure you have that system in place where you're going through your tasks, making sure you're actually putting them in the digital planner. If you don't go through your tasks and put them in the planner, this won't work for you, but it can be a really great tool. This is really great if you're on your phone or your computer a lot. So you can utilize the planner. There are a bunch of different apps out there. Some of them are Todoist, Any.do, the Google Calendar app, actually, Apple Calendar, Microsoft Outlook, Things 3, Sorted, which is one I've tried before. And the list goes on. Some of them are paid, like you might have, some of them do have like a small subscription, or some of them you might pay like a fee up front, but it is a worthwhile investment, especially if you look through it and find that that system seems to like it'll work for you because it integrates those reminders and those events all in one. Like for Sorted, for instance, you check off that one I think is actually free on iPhone. You can check off your to-do items and it's in the same list as your calendar events. So it's all in one place. So this can be good. You need to remember, of course, to check it. So this is why we're talking about checking your calendar twice a day. So if you use one of these digital planners, you'll check your digital planner twice a day, and it'll be synced with your calendar account. So like your Google Calendar account, your Apple Calendar account. Next is, you might be surprised that we're saying it again, but digital calendar. So there's lots of different digital calendars depending on what you already use. So say if you have an Android Google Calendar, or even with iPhone as well, if you have like a Gmail, you can use your Google Calendar. If your school email is like Gmail based, you might already have a Gmail, Google Calendar integrated with your school email. You want to make sure with Google Calendar to use the email that you use most frequently and that you're going to check, because it is integrated with your email. So say someone emails you a calendar invite. This is like an advanced step, but say someone emails you a calendar invite, it'll become integrated with your calendar if it's sent to that email. Apple Calendar is the one I use. Of course, if you have an iPhone, Mac, iPad, this is the native calendar app. The bonus about this one is that you can actually integrate multiple email accounts into the same calendar. And with all of these calendars, including Microsoft Outlook, you can make subsections of your calendar or color code your events. We'll talk about this more in the next session, but generally speaking, it's a great idea. Just like you're going to color code, say if you get a digital physical planner, if you end up color coding it, it's the same idea where you have a certain calendar or a certain category, depending on the app, it kind of calls them different things, but you have like a sub calendar or a color represents something different. So for my calendar, I have all my Ivymind meetings as one color. I have my to-dos as another calendar or color / sub calendar. I have events for my class homework. So since I'm in grad school, I have that. And so on. If I have social events, because people have social lives as well, I have that. And you'll set that up in your next meeting or in our next meeting. But in general, digital calendars have built-in reminders. So you need to set it when you set the event. But once you get in the habit of it, it's second nature. So you create your event, set the reminder so it can remind you 10 minutes before, 30 minutes before, the day before, etc. You can set recurring events. So you can even put your classes on your calendar. Say, especially if you have a schedule where it changes on a given day, you can put your classes in your calendar just so you can see your free breaks. And it also syncs across devices, which is also good if you use different devices. Say you're on your computer at home, but you're on your phone at school, like that example student we had who had different places where they're doing their work. The digital calendar is great for that because it syncs across everything. And again, you'll set this up during our next session. We'll walk you through it. So next is Notion. Neither of us personally use Notion, but it's a digital organizing system. It takes a little bit of time to set up, but some students really like it and they really plug for Notion. Grace said that she lives on Notion, which is awesome. So if you are interested in Notion, you can definitely look at this link. These slides are available. We have a Google folder for them, so we have it available. And you can look up how to use Notion, set it up, and then have that be your system in addition to your calendar. You want to have your calendar number one, but this can be something in addition to just help organize your tasks, organize everything you need to do. Next are other apps. So particularly reminder apps. Those are great when you have individual tasks. So say you are doing the method where you're writing out all of your tasks at first. This can be great if you have something that's not necessarily an event, you don't have a particular time, but it's something you need to get done. Like, if you, for instance, are using the Pomodoro method maybe, and you have those chunks of tasks that you need to do. So you have the 25-minute interval or whatever interval you use, and you want to organize it by task instead of setting a particular event on your calendar for study time. So you can use a reminder app to do this. Do is a great plug. It's on iPhone. I'm not sure if it's on Android, but it's one I personally use. The great thing about Do is that it'll keep bugging you. So it'll remind you up to 10 times, and you can set the intervals of when it will remind you. So it can remind you every 10 minutes, it can remind you every hour, etc. But it'll keep bugging you to do something until you check it off, which is really good if you find that you keep forgetting what it is you need to do. Because I know someone said that earlier, that they kind of forget what they need to do. So this is a great app for that. There's Apple Reminders. So this is just a general reminders app where you check off your reminders. A cool thing about Apple Reminders is you can actually integrate it with Apple Maps or Google Maps. So say if you set a reminder, say once you get home, you want it to remind you to do X, it can do that for you. You can just ask Siri to do it, or you can set it up in the app yourself. Google Keep is another one if you use an Android. It's kind of similar. Microsoft To Do, same idea. And then some other apps we found that you could look into: Ntask, Clear, TickTick, Trello, Remember the Milk. Each one has a little bit of a different setup. So you want to peruse the App Store and see, they have the previews of the app, or if they have like a free trial, or you just download the app, see if you like it. There is going to be some trial and error with this because each person has their own method, especially if you're a visual learner. If you might even have certain preferences of, okay, I like this visual layout versus this visual layout, which is perfectly fine. You want to play around with your system. So this can be great. And then here are some more lists that you can look through of different apps. Another one we've been talking about is the dry erase calendar. So great for our tactile learners out there, or even the visual learners who spend a lot of time at home during your homework. So this can be a great supplement to your digital calendar, where you have to physically write out the events for a given week or a given month, depending on the type of calendar. Some dry erase calendars are week-based, some are month-based. So it's great for people who like physical reminders. If you need to just physically look at it, they come in fun designs. So you can see one on the screen. They come in all different colors, different designs, and you can use dry erase markers. So you can get a pack of multicolored dry erase markers and have different colors. So say a band event is one color, homework is another color, your counselor meeting is another color, and just write that out on your calendar or when your due dates are, etc. And a bonus is you can combine this with sticky notes. So you can easily write something down on a sticky note, use your sticky note color system, and pop a sticky note on your calendar, because they also sometimes have like a little note section on the calendar. Another physical item that you could use is a push pin / thumbtack board. They call them both. It's a great place for sticky notes and papers. So say you have all your sticky notes, you're trying to figure out where to put them. You can put them on your pushpin board. If you have different papers, like say you have something that you need to remember, like say you can even put your syllabi on your pushpin board or any other notes that you have that you want to just have right in front of your face. Say you can set up your pushpin board by your desk or wherever it is you work. They come in fun designs. This one is just a kind of a basic one on the screen, but they come in lots of different fun colors and fun shape and fun designs, like at Target or Home Goods. And they're great for tactile and visual learners because it's in front of your face. One thing about a pushpin / thumbtack board is it's for people who are in one physical place. So if you're studying in multiple different places, like say you study at school, at a friend's, maybe you get together with a friend to work on a group project, and you go to the library, it might not work as well for you because you need to physically be there and look at it to see it. But if you're someone who has a desk, who you study in your room primarily, this can be a great supplement to your digital calendar to just have a place to put all those sticky notes. And also timers and alarms. It seems very simple, but it's actually great for those scheduled breaks we mentioned for the Pomodoro method. So your phone comes with one, so you can say, hey Siri, hey Google, set a timer. If you have an Alexa, you can say, hey Alexa, set a timer. And great thing about timers is it's also good for those breaks as well. So say someone mentioned that their reward is like going on social media. You can actually set a timer for that. So you can set a 10-minute timer to go on social media. That way you're not going down a rabbit hole of social media. You're just, you have your scheduled time, and then once your timer goes off, you go back to work. You can also set recurring alarms. So say you get home every certain time every day, you want to make sure you're starting your homework at a given time. You can have a daily reminder or a weekday time alarm that says, okay, at 7 o'clock, start your homework. At 7:50, take your break. If you want to have that regimented schedule, it's something that's great to set up. Another really great tool. Or you can use the stopwatch feature in the app as well to say if you want to work on something for a given amount of time, you can also use the stopwatch. And then finally, color-coded pens and markers. So this is great for our visual and our tactile learners out there. I'm a fan of color-coded pens for sure. So you can use it with sticky notes. So say you have one color sticky note, but you want to write the actual words in a different color, you can do that. Use it with your thumbtack board, your physical planner, or bullet journal as well. I know some people use bullet journals with different colors. And you want to create a system that makes sense to you. So for you, purple might mean one thing, and for your friend, purple might mean something completely different. But you can just get a pack of color-coded pens. They come in like packs of 5, packs of 10. They even have big pens where it's like multiple colors in one pen. I used to use that in college, where I would take notes and say, okay, a definition is one color, like a title for something is another color, etc. So you can use a system that works for you, but just making sure when you glance at something, you can say, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what is working for me, because you don't want, eventually the goal for your time management system is not to think. So you want to sit down, kind of get in the habit of writing out your tasks, using whatever system you use whatever tools you choose. And remember, you're going to cycle through these things. So you're going to kind of do some trial and error and figure out what makes sense for you. And just kind of reiterating like how to create a system. So we've presented a lot of different strategies, a lot of different systems. I just presented the different tools. You're probably wondering how all of this works in conjunction. So looking to, in terms of creating a system, you can use a few tools in conjunction. So for instance, my system, I use Apple Calendar, Do, as I mentioned, timers, sticky notes, and then a physical planner. Physical planner is like the newest thing, but primarily I use Apple Calendar. And then Jordan uses Google Calendar, physical planner, sticky notes, emails to yourself, actually, whiteboard, and a goal board. So Jordan, I don't know if you want to explain your system at all.
Yeah, so I think the most helpful thing for me has been sending email reminders. I feel like sometimes like we forget tasks and then they pop into our heads at times when we're not focusing on that task or not thinking about that task. So one way that I'm able to kind of keep track of my task list is I will send myself emails, like I just send it to my email address and then it shows up as a message from me. So any of those me messages, then I automatically add to my task list or I update my calendar to reflect that. So, if you have random calendar thoughts, consider emailing yourself because you might not be in a place that you have your calendar or you can like access it, when you have that thought to yourself.
Awesome. So that's another method you can use. You can get really creative with these. Like some people might use their notes app because at least with iPhone, they have the little check boxes that you can put on the notes app. So you might have all your tasks listed in your notes app. And if you remember a task, you put it on your notes and then have a time each day where you sit down and check your task list. Whatever works for you, make sure that you are just sticking to the system. And some should also act as fail safe. So that's why we're kind of bombarding you with so many different systems, is because they can work in conjunction. So say if you have an important task, you need to email your club or you need to get some supplies for a project. You can put the task on a sticky note and then put it in your reminder app, whichever app you use. And this is going to take some trial and error. I know we've presented a lot of different apps, a lot of different systems, a lot of different tools. It'll take some time to kind of figure out exactly what works for you, but hopefully during this session, you have gotten a sense of maybe things that are resonating with you as we've talked about this. So here we'll talk about the homework, which is kind of going to combine everything together. This is going to be very different, a little different than last time's homework. So homework number 2 is at least my personal favorite of the homeworks. So you're going to go on a shopping trip. You are going to go get the tools you need to get organized. So you're going to physically, this is also a good time to start using your calendar. Set aside a time, say maybe on this weekend, today Sunday, maybe even if you have some time today or time during the week, go to Target, Walmart, Home Goods, even go on Amazon, Marshalls, Ross, TJ Maxx, lots of different places have them, especially those random stores like Home Goods and Marshalls. They tend to have really fun designs of planners and dry erase boards and dry erase calendars I found. So if you want a fun design, you can go there, or Target has them as well. So think about the tools that appealed to you from this session and go and buy them physically. Tell your parents, hey, this is for my time management. We need to go shopping. Also download the apps that made sense to you and so forth, because you want to have everything set up. That way you can start creating your system. First, you want to have the tools of your trade. That's why we call it tools of the trade. You want to get together your toolbox, or if you want to think of the menu, like you're building your pizza, you're building your sandwich. You actually need the ingredients in order to build it. And your homework for this session, a couple different things. So you're going to take a picture of what you bought and send it to us, and then also reflect on what you learned today. So how do you plan to incorporate these tools into your daily life? and then what system or systems will you use? And then there's a Dropbox link where you can submit your photos and submit your reflection. And our next session is going to be March 12th at 8 to 9:30 a.m. Very good quick note for those who are in China or the Beijing time zone. Our US daylight saving time ends on March 12th. So actually it's going to be a 12-hour difference. So that's going to be at 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. your time instead of 9 to 10:30. So that's just a quick reminder. Daylight savings time throws everybody off, but that's what's going to happen on the 12th. So are there any questions that you guys have before we sign off for this session? Any burning questions about anything we went through today? Okay, so if there are not any questions, definitely feel free to email us if any questions come up during the next 2 weeks. Hopefully you'll set aside some time to do your shopping trip, but thank you everyone for coming, for participating as well.